Let's get this out of the way at the start. I'm a meteorology major with experience in weather communication and broadcast meteorology. I am not yet a degreed meteorologist, but I have taken classes and I go to school for it. These are my opinions and not the opinions of my bosses or my college or anyone who knows me. And with that out of the way, let's talk about the weather. I value good weather communication. I think it's essential to meteorology, or the science of forecasting the weather. Unfortunately, a lot of people on the internet, typically people who are not meteorologists, don't. You may be asking, how do you talk about the weather badly? And that's a great question. I'll explain. Let's start this off by looking at a TikTok account that I found because it was like the fourth result when I looked up weather on TikTok. MJW Holmes. You know he's qualified to talk about meteorology because he's a real estate agent. Those two professions are really closely linked, you know. The degrees are interchangeable. This is a TikTok he posted that has 345,000 views about a second hurricane hitting the Gulf Coast right after Helene. So let's look at what he's saying.
I haven't quite seen anything like this future forecast. Watch it come through and build up here. This is currently October 4th. It's right here. It develops into a major storm and then just kind of hangs out on the coast right here. This is October 6th. Watch. 3 whole days pass by until I pause it next. It barely has moved and it's October 9th. That's going to cause a lot of activity, weather issues for along this coast. 6 days in the Gulf, just hitting the coast wherever it's at. So watch out for this one. And again, it's way too early to tell if this is even going to form and do this. It could go a completely different direction. It could break apart. It could get worse.
Now, on the surface, he seems trustworthy. I mean, he's got a southern accent, that's one box check. He can't spell check his own captions either, which only adds to his authenticity. But there is one major issue that comes up a lot in these kinds of TikToks that makes this complete garbage. And that is that his only source for this information is not a forecast, it's not a prediction, it's not anything that anyone trained in meteorology is saying. It is one run of the GFS model 14 days out. The GFS model being an American forecasting model used by the Weather Service for all kinds of things generally. But in this instance, using it is a problem for a couple reasons. One, the GFS is not a good hurricane model at all. A lot of people call it the goofus for good reason. Here are 2 news articles out of quite a few, specifically about how bad the GFS is at hurricanes. It's known for constantly creating unrealistically strong hurricanes, slamming them into coasts, and then having them completely disappear on future model runs, and then they never happen in real life. This happened like 3 times over the summer. It's frequent. Here's a hurricane the GFS predicted to happen in like late June. This was not Beryl. This was like 2 weeks before Beryl. It just has a random hurricane slamming up into the Florida coast on a model run 14 days out. This would completely disappear in future runs and not happen at all. And people will say, oh, but it predicted Helene. It had Helene like way before that formed. And it can get stuff right, but the false positive rate is pretty high. And when it does actually hit on something, it can get the area and the strength wildly wrong. Like when it had Hurricane Francine pulled up on here and it said it was gonna go into the Florida Panhandle as like a category 4, this hurricane actually went into the Gulf Coast of Texas as a category 1. Very different things. The GFS cannot be your only source for you posting about a hurricane hitting a populated area. And if it is, like it is in this TikTok, it's just bad meteorology. And the second reason, which I kind of already touched on, is that this is 14 days out. This is literally as far as the GFS will go. And weather predictions at 14 days out are typically not accurate at all. He mentions that it's just sitting in the same place in the Gulf for 3 days, and he's like, whoa, how could that happen? It's because this model is 12 days out and there is bound to be weird stuff on it. Meteorology is not an exact science, and the rule is the closer you get, the better you'll be able to predict something. Anything more than like a week out is pretty hard to get, and the GFS 2 weeks out, which is like its maximum length, is typically only good for looking at like broad and generalized weather patterns to maybe give you an idea of a pattern that might develop in the next couple weeks. It is not good for specific things, like this specific storm is gonna hit this area, or this hurricane is gonna go up through here. As of when I'm making making this video, which is September 29th at noon, the National Hurricane Center has a thing out saying that there is a 50% chance that a tropical cyclone forms in the Caribbean over the next week. The GFS is very back and forth on if anything will happen at all. Some model runs do have like a category 1 or 2 hitting that area of Florida. Some of them have had it like more west towards like Louisiana, and some of them just have not had it at all. And that's what the core messaging should be. This could happen, and it could happen over a pretty broad area, so check back in a couple days and see if it's developed. But that's not the messaging. Instead, the messaging is, holy shit, this one 14-day out model of the GFS said we have a Cat 5 stalling in the Caribbean. Imagine if that hit the exact same area as the last one. It's just fear-mongering. Just ignore every other run that has literally nothing happening. Look at this one model run that has a big thing on it. This is really toxic to good weather communication, and it just makes people scared more than it does inform them of anything. And the GFS is the primary culprit for this type of stuff because the GFS is the easily available weather model that goes out the farthest, because it goes out for like 14 whole days. Two other weather models that are used a lot, the NAM and the HER, only go out 3.5 and 2 days respectively. And that's because, again, the further out you go, the harder it is to predict with any sort of accuracy. But a lot of people do this. Here's a TikTok with 1.2 million views. That's literally just a run of the GFS with a song called Disturbing Suspense, Psychological Thriller with Drama playing in the background. Who are you helping? Who are you warning? Who are you educating? Weather Guide US? Look back to this guy's profile and you can not only find that one run that had Hurricane Francine hitting Florida as a category 5, but also one a month earlier that just didn't exist in real life at all. He's batting worse than some baseball players, and he's got 1.2 million people trusting him for accurate weather advice. That's crazy to me. It's not just TikTok though, like go on Twitter and look up GFS. It's full of people doing this. Here's the guy whose main qualifications seem to be that he is a Christian drone pilot who is seeking truth. I'm genuinely not even sure what he's pointing at here, but apparently it's supposed to be the start of a hurricane that does not even exist on the GFS run he has pulled up. He then claims the ICANN model has it. What is it in this context? What are you pointing at? Here's a man whose main qualification seems to be living in Tucson, posting the same 14-day GFS run as the guy on TikTok, and then immediately making another tweet that says, the public messaging needs to improve. I think I get why people feel the need to do this. There's 3 main camps of people. One is the people who do it out of a sense of wanting to warn others, but that's kind of a misguided sense. There are professionals who will do this, and I guarantee you that you, some guy on TikTok with no credentials, will not do a better job at predicting the weather than someone who has their degree in meteorology and has spent decades doing this. This is honestly the best camp to be in though, because the second camp is people who just want to get attention and make a quick buck. I've seen this. You realize you can get a bunch of TikTok views by posting about insane category 5 hurricanes. And so you do. It happens and it sucks. I don't like that the internet is this way, but what am I gonna do about it? And the last camp is that you're a conservative who doesn't trust anybody and thinks that you, yes you, armed with 2 weather models in a Google search bar, can do better than the dozens of people working at the National Hurricane Center. And to that I say, the GFS is like a government model. Why are you not trusting the National Weather Service, but you're trusting one of their models? Huh? Solely relying on the GFS for insane and fear-mongering weather predictions are not the only way to be bad at weather communication. We're gonna get into an admittedly small gripe, but bad clickbait. There's a lot of weather channels on YouTube that make my eyes bleed with their thumbnails. Here's a great example. What the fuck is this? Some of these are literally the same thumbnails but with the colors flipped. Get ready! Wild turn! Watch out! Watch out! And this is not the worst offender. You thought that using the word watch 4 times in 8 thumbnails was bad? Here's the word Arctic 10 times in 12 thumbnails. All of these videos were published in August. This cold shouldn't be coming yet, and this shouldn't be happening yet. How is this possible? Are again, basically the same thumbnail. These people are clickbaiting meteorology like I clickbait Japanese music reviews, and those are not the same levels of importance. I actually have a little bit of a beef with these videos because the core of them seems to be pulling up a model run for temperature a month and a half out and talking about it. Now, this is not great for a couple reasons that I mentioned earlier, because one, it's really far out, and two, he is using one specific model run as his source, and that one specific model run is pretty likely to be wrong. He spends a lot of time in this video talking about this big Arctic blast that's supposed to hit Philadelphia from September 15th to the 20th. Like 10 to 15 degrees below average temperatures here. So I wanted to see, did he get this right? Let's look at the actual real life high temperatures from Philadelphia on the week of September 20th. According to Wikipedia, the average high temperature in Philadelphia in February is 78.9 degrees. So let's look at September 15th, 10 degrees below average. That's supposed to be a high of what, like 68 degrees? So let's see what it is. Oh, it was 83 degrees that day. That is 5 degrees warmer than the average. All right, well, maybe it gets colder later. 76 on the 16th, there's that. And it's 79, bang on average, on the 17th. 79 again, and then we get a high of 87 degrees on the 19th. So we are 10 degrees off the average, but we are 10 degrees off the average in the wrong direction. If you had gone on YouTube and pulled up a chart of average high temperatures in Philadelphia, you would be twice as correct as you actually were. And on September 20th, the exact day being showed in this video, it's 84. This is why when AccuWeather introduced a 45-day forecast, everyone bullied them for it. Because predicting specific stuff that far out is more a matter of climatology than meteorology. You're basing it mostly on historical data and these generally inaccurate, super long-range weather models. You could probably throw a dart at a wall and get a similar level of accuracy. And don't just take it from me, take it from Wes Junker, winter weather expert at the Washington Post, who says, quote, "It gives people a false sense of where the science is. In daily forecasts, there's no accuracy beyond 7 days at all." Steve Tracton, meteorology PhD from MIT, says, "It undermines the credibility of the science of meteorology. There cannot be skill at those ranges. It goes back to chaos theory." And I know people are going to be on me like, they're just showing what could happen. They're not predicting the weather. This is just an example of a possible outcome. Well, they're not really portraying it that way. This 2-month out model run needs to be taken with like a whole spoonful of salt more than they're giving it. It shouldn't be, hey, if this model holds, it's gonna be really cold. Because the chance of this model holding is about the same chance as me getting a 100 on a calculus exam. Very, very low. And the people in the comments of these videos don't know that. Glad to see cooler temps on the way. There's a bunch of comments about people wanting it to be cool on Halloween. The average person doesn't know how comically inaccurate AccuWeather's 45-day forecast is, so they just take it as fact. And that's why this is such a problem. Also, there's 14 likes on a comment saying that this cold weather is the fault of HAARP. Have we talked about HAARP yet? We haven't? Oh boy. There's a fun thing in weather called conspiracy theories. Like that time InfoWars posted that Obama created Hurricane Sandy. The driver behind that insane Sandy conspiracy, and many of the ones like it, is a program known as the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HAARP. It's a program ran by the University of Alaska at Fairbanks, which studies the Earth's ionosphere, which is one of the layers in the atmosphere. Very, very basically, the program involves shooting very low frequency radio waves into the ionosphere and seeing how that level of the environment reacts. And conspiracy theorists hate it. I just want to read through some of the absolutely ridiculous stuff on the conspiracy theories section of the HAARP Wikipedia page. All right, let's see what they got here. Nick Begich, notable for being related to some politicians, thinks that, quote, "The HAARP facility could trigger earthquakes and turn the upper atmosphere into a giant lens so that the sky would literally appear to burn." He maintains a website that claims HAARP is a mind control device. We're off to a great start here. Former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, of all people, thinks the site is being used to either manipulate the weather or mind control people, because you can't do both. Apparently he showed up there unannounced once and was denied access. I'm sorry, did he take a trip out to the middle of nowhere in Alaska just to try to get into HARP? What? Does he know they do open houses? Every couple of years they hold events where you can just sign up online and they will show you around. He could have just done that. More recently, people were saying HARP caused the 2023 Turkish earthquake, the big Northern Lights show across the US in May 2024, and also, 2 guys got arrested for a domestic terrorism plot against HARP because they thought it could, quote, trap the souls of people. They said that God told them to go and blow this machine up so souls could be released. Holy shit. I see why they have a security checkpoint at the National Weather Center now. I probably don't need to tell you why these conspiracy theories are harmful to not just meteorology, but science in general. I mean, I really don't need to tell you why they're harmful after the God said to commit domestic terrorism thing, but yeah, it's not good. People don't want to trust science these days, which is really bad. Science is important. It can save your life. It probably has saved your life at some point in time. I promise you the government does not want to kill you with a tornado. And to make good on that promise, let me dispel some of the myths on Twitter here. Here's some guy claiming that the Weather Channel's radar just suddenly has it pop up. This is because you are going from a current radar, which does not stretch far enough south to see it, to a future radar projection, which is combining all the radar sources together and does stretch far enough south to see it. The Weather Channel's app just sucks. This has 7,500 likes and is calling this thing a HARP climate change outpost. This is a military radar that detects ballistic missiles. It has nothing to do with the weather. This is another guy who just doesn't understand that AccuWeather's future radar is kinda sorta completely broken and just works by like awkwardly projecting things that were already there. Don't use AccuWeather. If there's one thing you take out of this video, do not ever use AccuWeather. Here's a guy claiming that the hurricane is being used to stop Trump voters in the election that is a month and a half away. I shouldn't have to tell you why that's stupid. And then I don't even know what this post is about. I just found this one on Twitter. This is from a guy called Herman. These are just pictures of clouds. Those happen, man. Now, you may be thinking, if I shouldn't get my weather advice from some guy on TikTok, who should I get it from? If you're in America, because that's where I am and that's where this video is focused on, you probably have a local news station specifically focused on your area with broadcast meteorologists who are trained and have degrees and are severely underpaid, to be honest, who are in this because they want to help you. I promise you that unlike TikTok, very few people in broadcast meteorology are in it for the money, because they don't make any. They value good weather communication and they know what they're talking about. They're probably pretty good. And I'm not saying all social media meteorologists are bad. There are absolutely people making good and informed weather content. They're just not the ones I talk about in this video. I don't watch TikTok, so I can't really comment there at all. But on Twitter, someone like Matthew Capucci is probably a good follow for like big national weather events. He knows what he's talking about, which makes him more qualified than most of the people on that app. For local stuff, every National Weather Service office has their own Twitter. You can find your local one, like for example, mine is National Weather Service Norman, and follow them, and they'll post everything you need to know. For YouTube, if you are someone who enjoys 45 minutes of weather analysis, I cannot recommend Convective Chronicles enough. These videos are really helpful to understand the science behind severe weather outbreaks. And for live streaming, controversial take, you can just put on Ryan Hall. I know I dunked on his video clickbait for being absolutely terrible, because it is, but his live streams aren't bad and they're generally pretty helpful in the event of severe weather outbreaks. Although, again, if there's an outbreak in your area, your local news will probably do a better job than Ryan Hall. They're a lot more specialized. Also, if you're in America, you can just go to weather.gov and get a full forecast straight from the weather service. Like, you can get a 7-day, you can get an hourly forecast on basically everything you'd want. And if you're a nerd like me, you can even click on forecast discussion and read a full write-up of why they forecasted it the way they did. This website might look a little outdated, but it's probably the best weather resource anywhere. And it's all free, because the National Weather Service is cool. And if you're not in America, it's likely that your country has has something similar, although it might not be as detailed as the National Weather Service's website. If you see an insane fear-mongering TikTok like, holy shit, Category 5 coming in, massive storm system incoming, or a YouTube thumbnail that has a big white arrow on it and says some garbage like, get ready, check what the Weather Service is saying. I will literally put a link to the National Hurricane Center website and socials in the description, because they are a better source on this than a guy on TikTok. Yeah, there's my rant about bad weather communication. Hope you enjoyed. Regularly scheduled Japanese music videos will return shortly. Thanks for putting up with me. Bye.